one. Welcome, everybody. Hello, coming at you live from New York. This is Spirit Matters, your daily Bhakti Center podcast. So glad that you are here. I'm Dal Grunga here with Kishore and Achyuta. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. How you doing? How are we doing?
How are you doing?
How are you doing? How's Achyuta doing?
How's Achyuta doing?
Let's start there. That's always a good backup question.
I'm excited to be here.
Okay, that was an easy out.
I mean, there are some days where it's like, it's different. Today, we genuinely excited to be here.
Excited to be here. Kishore?
I'm also very excited to be here today. I'm going to go with that.
Okay, we're all excited to be here. I'm at the Bhakti Center. I came this morning to give class, and I was starting this new routine last night where it's like, you ever have this like regular space you get to in life where it's like, I'm gonna get my life together. Like, here we go. I'm gonna actually do it. I'm gonna get my life together. Uchita's like, no, I don't do that. Like, you have these like moments like, it's like, I'm gonna do it. Here we go. And then so I was like, last night I was like, okay, 8:30. I put my phone away and I started to read, and I went to bed, and I woke up and I got up at 6. Then I went to brush my teeth, and then I was like, okay, here we go. I'm getting my morning together. And then I realized it's Tuesday, and I come to the Bhakti Center to give class, and I'm like, I have to leave right now to go give class at the Bhakti Center. And I was like, good thing I got up. So I came this morning, and I'm here.
I'm like hilariously, maniacally laughing on the side because I'm listening to everybody's like schedules. I'm like, you people don't have kids. That's hilarious. Everybody has their like neat little schedule. Everybody's got a thing. It's like, oh, at 8:30 I started prepping myself. I'm going to bed. I'm like, the minute you have another human that you're caring for, that human does not care about your schedule. And then just when you think you're like, okay, I'm gonna get it together, I'm gonna switch things up, I'm gonna change my life, then that other smaller human gets a cold, and then they're not able to sleep, and so you're not able to sleep, and so this is life. And so when you were saying, I was like, I remember when I used to make those neat schedules. It was about 5 minutes of my life that I did that, but I remember when I used to make those kinds of schedules. Must be nice.
That's a proud parent right there.
To be honest, I wouldn't change it for the world. But also,
Nandi, if you're listening, we love you.
It's a lesson in how your schedule goes completely out the window.
So Rasika and I, we don't plan to have kids. We love kids. God bless them. We have a puppy and we feel fully satisfied. But God bless all the childbearing humans of the world. We wouldn't be here without you.
I am also planning on not having children, FYI. I was just talking about this with a friend yesterday. He was calling me because he was having some relationship issues, and we were just like bantering and laughing. He had already figured it out. And then I told him, I was just like, it's so funny how people think like when you get into a relationship or when you have a kid or when you like whatever, when you bring in another person, it's just going to magically like solve everything. And it's like, of course, I think that people have that feeling or mentality of like, I wouldn't switch this for the world, whether that's a significant other or a child, even more so. But it's like, things are going to change and it's going to be different, and your schedule is going to be different, and life's going to be different, and you're going to have a lot more stuff on your plate. And it's just like you're dealing with a whole nother human being. Like you're just dealing with a whole nother human being and their karma and their stuff. And it's like,
And I in many ways, I'm actually super grateful because I got to learn it this way. The material world's going to teach everybody. Just depends on what's going to get you. And so, Radhanath Maharaj says,
you're telling us like we can't escape even if we don't have kids?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
That's exactly what she's saying.
Like, you think
we're not going to get off the hook so easy.
You're not. You think that you're like, oh, I'll solve the problem. I don't intend to have kids. Fine. It's going to be all right. It's going to be totally
solve the problem. I didn't know I was solving a problem.
I knew I was solving a problem.
You think you are. And then material nature says, oh, let me figure out exactly what you need in order to learn all of the lessons. And then she humbles us. There is actually no escape. Sorry.
No escape. You
There's
can,
no escape.
not having kids won't solve your problems.
Nope. Having them won't solve your
That's
problems,
the
and not
title.
having them won't solve
That's
your
the
problems.
title. Not having kids won't solve your problems.
There you
I know.
go.
Well, I'm laughing because Kishore was like, "Yeah, of course we say all the things like I wouldn't change it for the world, and it's the best thing ever."
Right?
But like, let's get real. No, I mean you know what it is? It's my wife and I we love kids. We love being an aunt and an uncle and godparents. Even though it's interesting. Like we have siblings. I have a sister who's 3 years older than me. I have a brother who's 13 years younger than me, so he's still in his early 20s. And my wife has 2 brothers. And my wife's older brother is the only one that has kids. Her middle brother is not planning to have kids. And my wife, my sister has 2 kids, and my younger brother is not old enough yet, or I mean, he is old enough. He's still, he's not in a relationship or anything like that. And we're not the godparents of any of our kids. And we're like, we're the most religious, spiritual people that you'll meet, and we haven't become the godparents yet. Like my brother-in-law, who's like an atheist, was the god brother of my nephews before we were picked, and so.
Well, a godparent doesn't have anything to do with religiosity. It has to do with who is willing to take complete control of the child if the parents were to perish. And since you don't want to have children, why would they
He's
torture you?
like, let me explain this to you from the vantage point of a parent.
Why would they torture you by making you the godparent of all of these children that you said you didn't want to have?
We love being aunts and uncles. We love kids. My wife and I, we even thought like maybe if we had kids, we even thought about like adoption at one point. Like we love kids, but just it's more of like I'm trying to get my own life together. How am I going to like manage the life of another human being? Like we're trying to like, you know, keep some money in our bank account and our bills, and also we're trying, you know what I mean? It's like it's like how much money's in the bank? I don't know. I haven't been paying that close attention. Like maybe we should be paying more attention to that, you know? And it's like, and also like I'm trying to feed myself. How am I going to feed another person? Like my wife and I, we joke like our dog eats better than us. Like he's regulated. He gets 2 times a day. We just sometimes we wish it's like I wish that was that simple. I just take a scoop out of a big bag. That's my meal. And so it's less to do with how we don't want kids and more of like the responsibility, and it's a lot. And I think some of us,
It is.
we're the product of people. Some of us are the product of people having kids when they weren't ready.
Well, here's the thing. What I also think is funny is you're like, I'm just trying to like get my life together. Like I barely eat. How am I supposed to make sure that somebody else eats? And then Doyle organized a retreat with 15 other souls that he took full responsibility for.
You trying to convince me to have kids?
I'm actually not. I'm just trying to show you that you've already been taking the responsibility that you're afraid of formally committing to.
And
You've
then I like
actually already been doing the job.
and then I like blacked out for a week after the retreat because I was because I was so drained from leading all those people. So I don't know how I would do it with a child, to be honest.
I gotta say, there are some days where I'm like, you know what? Women get a really bad rep, but we are some of the most resilient creatures in all
I
of
agree.
creation.
I
Because I came
100%
back
agree.
and immediately went back into mom mode, homeschooling, like a whole thing. Like I was just, but
I was raised by women. My parents divorced when I was real young, and I was mostly full custody with my mom, my dad every weekend. So I was my mom and my sister, and I come from a matriarchal family. My mom was one of 7, and the women are generally the breadwinners, the more decision makers in the family. So it's like I grew up being comfortable like with the woman being in charge, and also I grew up in a home of women, so I was raised by women. But I remember this distinct. So I have like tremendous appreciation for the women in my life. I'm like I'm more comfortable with like a female therapist than a male therapist, like counselors. Like I most of my friends are women, and so it's like I'm really comfortable with like women being in charge or deferring to women. But I do have this distinct memory growing up as a young boy, just observing. I was like, God, it's so much harder being a woman. You know, it was like I just remember thinking like it just looks so much like harder, whether it's like physically taking care of the body, like all the responsibilities that come with childbearing, et cetera. And it's like, and it actually increased an appreciation. I remember thinking like, this is nothing like a dig, but it was just like, I was like, wow, it was like, I got it a lot easier being in a male body.
A little bit. A
A
little
little
bit.
bit. And
Yeah.
it's just
I
like,
mean,
and it's like you realize like, wow, like there is a lack of appreciation for what women go through. Just being a woman in today's society. I remember having that this was before I met Dakota as a little boy, and so I say that as an echoing of your point, Achuta, that there's an underappreciation for the strength, the resiliency um, of being a woman in today's world, in any world, really. So
but
thank you,
the
thank
point,
you to all the women out there and the women in my life, and for all the mothers. We wouldn't be here without you.
literally.
Literally.
The point remains, though, that the trick is that you think you can escape the lessons that material nature would like to teach you.
Mm,
You don't have a choice in the matter. If you are supposed to learn certain lessons, material nature will heap those lessons upon you.
mm,
Whether it's through a child parent relationship, whether it's through another relationship, whether it's just through relationships of authority in your life. We have this misconception. We fool ourselves into thinking I'm autonomous and I don't have to listen to anyone and I don't have to be under anyone's authority and I don't have to be in a position where I have to exert my authority over others. And then material nature comes and plops all of the situations in your lap.
mm.
And then we have to figure out how to deal with it. We might think you're like, oh, I could never do that. But you just said your dog eats better than you do. So funny thing about kids, they tend to tell you when they're hungry. Like they tend to let you know, they have warning signs, especially when they begin speaking. The warning signs sound like this: I'm hungry.
Mm,
So I used to also think that, like, I'm like, how are you supposed to remember to feed this kid? I'm like, funny thing about those, they made them so that most of them talk. So then
mm,
they come to you and they tell you, and even the ones who are nonverbal have indicators. They figure out a way.
mm,
So I mean, my goal as a parent has always been to raise a child who didn't need therapy from being my child.
mm,
That's my biggest goal. That's my biggest aim. Um, and the rest, it's been a constant lesson in surrender. I
mm,
have to understand that I am not in control of everything. I
mm,
can try my hardest and I'm still going to get things wrong because we're spirit souls. And if we think that the only way to have children is to be perfect and get everything right, then this civilization is done for, because souls are prone to make mistakes. It's part
mm,
of our cosmic makeup. We are
mm,
gonna commit mistakes. We are gonna speak fallacies. We're gonna do these things. And so then the question becomes not how do I stop from committing mistakes, but how do I bounce back? What do I do after I've made the mistake?
mm,
How do I cherish this relationship after things have gone sideways?
mm.
Do we talk about it? Do we help one another through it? Do we coach one another through it?
Hare Krishna.
I mean,
God bless. Thank you so much, Achuta, for being you, for raising such a beautiful child. And I think you've been successful. I think you're successful.
I I try not to get down on myself about success or the failure of it, because I feel like, one, that's not on me. That's on Krishna. All I can do is my
Mm,
best. and give that to Krishna. And two, one never knows until the kid has grown up and all whatever. But there are times, like yesterday, Nandi was sitting reading Chaitanya Bhagavat. And I was like, see? That right there? That's a good job. That's
Great job. That's a great job.
if I can make a situation where she loves Krishna and she loves herself, that's about as much as I can do. Because if she happens to like not do so well on long division, funny thing, when we grow up we have calculators. Like, nothing is actually that much the end of the world. And some of us were grown with that thinking that this is the end of the world. If you don't make it through this class, that is it. You'll never prosper in life. Like, you always hear this, it's gonna go on your permanent record. Like, where is this permanent record?
The Akashic record.
Like, where is this record? And does it really have my like 9th grade math scores on it or no? So it's been such a lesson in realizing that I'm not in control, and realizing that some things that I thought were going to be the end of the world are definitely not going to be the end of the world. And the next day, right after whatever has happened, the world's going to keep spinning. It's going to be another day.
I was you're talking about long division and like what's really important to learn, and I was thinking about, like, we were talking about like goals in life, and like really it depends on what our goal is and what we see for a vision of our future. And I was reading this I was reading something yesterday, a post. Somebody said, today a first grader told me that she doesn't need to learn what I'm teaching because she wants to be a pineapple when she grows up. And although as silly as it is, there is a sense of like, is what I'm learning useful for where I want to be later on in my life? And I think that, I'm just thinking about reading a few verses before we call it a day here. A few verses from the Gita, and we've been reading these verses from the Gita about where do I see myself going, and what's the trajectory for my life. And I think a lot of Elaine's like, I want to be a pineapple. Everyone wants to be a pineapple now. Our chat's blowing up with desires to be a pineapple. I'm just thinking in terms of, we sometimes have this pre-formulated, accepted understanding of what life is supposed to look like. I'm supposed to get this type of job. I'm supposed to have this type of. I'm supposed to have kids. I'm not supposed to have kids. I'm supposed to live like this. I'm supposed to dress like this, etc. Whatever it is, and we don't stop to question, like, wait a second, like, why am I having kids? Why am I not having kids? Why am I getting married? Why am I feeling a pressure to get married? Why am I feeling a pressure to have my career look a certain way? Why do I need to, X, Y, and Z? And I think that when we become more firmly established in our understanding of what is important and where we want our life to be, then some of the other things we feel less of a pressure to grasp on to grasp onto all the details, which may look different for all of us. My life might look different externally to someone else, and that's okay, because the goal isn't to make it look the same externally. The goal, and as you said, Achyuta, it's like we're going to learn lessons we're meant to learn, so we can't escape it. And so I can just embrace what's being brought my way. And I'm just looking over here at the chat. I'm seeing Achyuta typing. The last thing, I've been a unicorn. It only sucked when people kept telling me I couldn't exist. LOL. What is going on this chat?
You said she wanted to be a pineapple, so now everybody's talking about what they want to be.
Pineapples and unicorns.
And a marshmallow. That was
a marshmallow. Okay, well, we're kind of dressed like marshmallows.
You see? Mm-hmm.
All right. That was my philosophical attempt at being deep. Should we read a verse from the Bhagavad? Should we read a verse from the Bhagavad Gita?
I really hate that I missed the one that is one of my favorites, the from contemplating the objects of the senses.
Let's go back.
Can we go back and reread?
We're going back. Rewind. Verse 62, chapter 2, verse 62. I spoke on these yesterday, but we didn't get to speak of them as a team, as family. So Achuta's going to read for us verse 62 and share with us some words in our final minutes here.
Sure. 62. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. Now, of course, they're in tandem. From anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. These verses always seemed like, what? When I was younger. And then when I got older, I realized how smart and intelligent and amazing Krishna was, because this is human psychology all in 2 verses, complete 2 verses. I had a coworker once, and this coworker wanted certain days off. They went to our supervisor. The supervisor didn't give them. They were really, really thinking about those days off because they kind of needed it for handling family issues, whatever it was. They didn't get the days off. They wound up getting really, really angry. They wound up having a yelling match with one of our supervisors. Another supervisor came in and they had another screaming match with the other supervisor, which was higher than the first supervisor. And then they were like, look, take a minute, take 15 minutes, take a walk, do whatever you need to do. When the person came back from the walk, they were like, oh my God, Achita, what did I just do? And I was like, well, what happened? Like, what just happened? And they were like, I can't even remember. They're like, I don't even remember everything that I said, but I think maybe I'm about to just lose my job because I don't even remember. I was like, that was really unlike you though. And they're like, I don't even remember what I said. And I remember sitting down at my cubicle and opening Bhagavad Gita and rereading these 2 verses and realizing that Krishna is amazing. From contemplating the objects of the senses, he needed time off. Lust arises, this desire, this yearning. I need this. When that lust goes unfulfilled, he couldn't get the time off. Anger arises. From anger, there is delusion. He became completely uncontrolled. Then there's bewilderment of memory. He couldn't even remember what was said in the screaming matches. You get anger and bewilderment of memory and delusion, and then one falls back into the material pool. And he was miserable. He didn't lose his job. It all worked out. But it was one of those lessons where, and what really sunk it for me was, I was like, well, what happened? It's like, I don't even remember. I don't even remember what I said. How many times do we in anger say things and we don't remember what we've said? But it has ruined things. The other person will remember, and we don't remember what we said. Because Maya Angelou, you won't remember what they say, won't remember what they do, but you will remember how they make you feel. So I feel like this is like the crux, the essence of this verse. It's like, don't let the mind trick you into getting so out of control. Because like we won't even remember. We will have burned bridges. We will have burned down beautiful connections that we hold dear, and we won't even remember.
I agree with everything that you said, Achita. I remember I was listening to a podcast a long time ago. I don't remember who was like the host. I think it was Jagannath. Maybe, I can't remember, but it was with Bali and Danya, and they were speaking about like relationship, and they were speaking about marriage, and they were speaking about all this stuff. And they were just saying like how like one of the keys to like their whatever, their marriage or whatever is, and Bali was like really like forthcoming with this. He was really like, I really had to work on my anger. Like I really had to work on my anger and just make sure to not let it get out of control, because the second that like someone gets angry in this thing and it becomes an outward expression of that anger, it's destined to fail. Like you have to be able to kind of control that mind a little bit. And something I really liked in the purport that Srila Prabhupada says is that, I'll paraphrase kind of the beginning, kind of the end. of this verse 62. He says that the senses require real engagements. And if they're not engaged in the loving service of Krishna, then they're going to seek engagement in the service of materialism. And I really love that, because it's not like just stop feeling, just stop having, attachments to things, just stop now. No, Srila Prabhupada is saying like those, you need to be attracted. And look, I think 2 verses ago, right? You need to be attracted to something higher, to a higher taste. And then towards the end, Srila Prabhupada says, and I really love this, that one who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. And I really love that, because it's like, you can, what Prabhupada is saying is like, you can try by any artificial means to kind of like repress things, but he's saying like, that's not the answer. And Krishna says that later in the Gita, like repression is not actually the answer. We're actually understanding that we have, desires for sense objects and this and etc. and whatever, but we're learning this awesome mystical path of bhakti that basically redirects those, so that we're not caught in the inevitable downfall, as he calls it. And I think that's so interesting, because it's like, especially in space of relationship with anyone, with a partner, with a parent, with a child, whatever it may be, it's like, okay, it kind of shifts the goal a little bit, in terms of what Dayal was speaking about at the beginning, like having clear goals and stuff like that. It's like, okay, my goal is to not get lost in my, petty anger, because I love what Achyuta said. And I mean, I've had those moments. It's like, you realize that you've said something, or you don't even remember what you said. You were just in like a heat of like a flash of anger. And it's like, okay, if I can replace or like recalibrate why I'm doing things in the first place, then some shifts will happen. That's definitely helped me a lot. But I really love that it's not to just like cease all activity, just like stop. No, Prabhupada is saying like, you have to redirect this a bit.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for all the chat stuff. I love when you share your personal experiences with something Achyuta and bring it home for us. I want to hear from Kimberly, who's got some takeaways for us as we reach on time, and then we'll have some closing words.
Thank you. Today we're taking away that we can't escape the material lessons we are meant to learn, to bounce back from mistakes, and to not allow the mind to get out of control, and instead redirect it to engage in the service of something higher.
Love it, love it. Closing words, Kishore, Achyuta?
Kimberly, she like sewed it up all nice and together. That's it.
That's it. She did it.
I think I'm walking away with this idea of just remembering how to redirect certain emotions for Krishna's pleasure. Sometimes we think it's only the quote unquote good ones. I'm happy and it's for Krishna's pleasure, or I'm this whatever, joyful, or etc. But it's like, when we think about anger, when we think about things like frustration or lust, when we think about these things, it's like, okay, how do I like redirect this so that it's somehow working in this Krishna universe that I'm a part of, as opposed to taking me down? So I'm thinking about that. Yeah, but that's more of a question than an answer.
I'm not gonna have kids. That's my take.
That's also my takeaway. That's okay.
But I'm open.
I have
if my wife came to me and said, you know what, I really, really want to have kids, I would be like, okay, let's look at that. She doesn't want kids either.
When I no longer say what I'm definitely not going to do anymore, because Krishna he's interesting. When you allow him to take control of your life, all of the things that you promise yourself you are not going to do, Krishna plops into your lap. So
All
I
of a
have
sudden.
learned not to be so stringent with what I'm not going to do, because Krishna and material nature are a tag team. And sometimes they go, oh, really? Let's test it. Let's see. And when Krishna says,
Mm,
let's test it, there's no succeeding in that. We cannot be more
mm.
stubborn than the Supreme Person. So, I mean, I hear it. I
I'm
just
gonna
have
I'm
also
gonna show up. I'm gonna show up pregnant tomorrow, guys. I'm pregnant. I mean, your wife? No, me. I'm pregnant. I don't know how that happened, but Krishna, material nature, they're in cahoots.
that's happened. It's filled in the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
All right, guys. Today,
It can
tomorrow's a new
happen.
day. Be careful what you say. You're never gonna do. All right, guys. Love you so much. Appreciate you. Take care. Be well. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to being with you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.